because the history of anarchism comes from Rovereto. And he said, listen, this is not okay. Manifesta is so established, and why is she putting this exhibition in this anarchist building? I think we have to open up on a different way. And he took this literary and he said, I want this exhibition space, the doors to be removed, to be open for 24 hours, to allow the people to get in, even if they want to drive in with a car, even if they want to put a house inside, there need to be this kind of opening up the structure. And of course in the beginning said, are you crazy? Are you mad? People can steal the artworks, they can put fire inside, etc. But he won with a conviction that if you put a valuable, if you have respect towards the audiences, that also the audience will pay in return its respect. So we opened the doors, and for 3 months nothing happened. What happened was a very interesting participation of the local audiences, who sometimes even organized meetings in the exhibition space. And this part of the building is facing the city. The other part of the building was a very famous workers' restaurant. And what happened is that most of the people who wanted to visit the restaurant went through the building, in and out. And sometimes they even used in the building, in the exhibition space, their coffee. So you see, this is another way of how an exhibition, a model, a biennial model, can open up and share with audiences. This is a group in the same Manifesta 7. Pirat Biran is a Swedish hackers organization. Maybe you heard about Pirate Bay. You can download your free software there to see international movies. And they participated in Manifesta as a kind of an example that international culture and international art should be opened up for all kind of communities and all kind of audiences and groups. And they created a special website for Manifesta, not because Manifesta is so popular, but because Pirate Bay is so popular. It was visited by 63 million people around the world. And they traveled from Stockholm in this bus down to Trento and Bolzano, and in every city they stopped and they provoked, or they distributed this idea of Manifesta as an open resource, as an open source. The backside of the building you see is a steel factory which were refurbished in Manifesta 7. It's a Mussolini building, and I will talk a little bit later about the educational format, because Manifesta has high visitors numbers, but only because of the education program, I sometimes think. 2 years before we come to the city, we start with universities, with local communities, with all kind of groups who are already organized, a series of programs in which contemporary culture is explained, but also the model of Manifesta is explained. And here, for this specific building, we work together with a union, the Sindicati in Italy, who collaborated with the members of the union, and instead of using guides, official guides, the former steel workers who were working in this building were trained as guards and guides in the building. So every day there was a group of pensionados, old people, who knew the building very well, but who were also educated. Later, after Manifesta was closed, they were so enthusiastic about the jobs that they are now working in the Bolzano Museum of Modern Art. One of the projects in Manifesta 7, and this gives a little bit an idea about the experimental character, the politicians asked us to use the Habsburg fort. It was in 1600 meters in the mountains, and it was completely deserted. And this is an example of how a building can be revitalized by using it as an exhibition space. It was refurbished in part of the exhibition halls, and the architecture was so impressive that the curators came up with a model in which there was nothing to see. It was no visible exhibition, but it was an audio exhibition. And the title of this part of the manifesto was Scenarios. What would happen if? And the curators asked 20 intellectuals, writers, scientists to write a story about what would happen if the snow is melting in the Dolomites? What would happen if Hitler would have won the war? These stories were visualized, choreographed by a British choreographer and put on audio by actors. And the stories, the audio stories, were implemented in the whole building. So you only saw the building, but by your walking through the building, you could open a door, and the door would be connected to the story. You could open a window, and your story would be revealed. This was also one of the first exhibitions, was not an exhibition, audio tours, which was able to be visited by blind people. So for this part of the Manifesta, we worked together with the Blind Association, and they brought in their members. This is an example of Manifesta 8, in which the curators, Bassam al-Baroni, he's from North Africa. Manifesta 8 had 3 curatorial teams, one from the Middle East, Lebanon, one from North Africa, and one from Central Europe, Transit. And this, each of the groups could select a series of venues, and especially this project was very interesting because the group from Northern Africa invited social activist groups from all over the world to discuss how would politics able to change society through an artistic model. And this model was, research was taped by a filmmaker in a film, and the film was presented in what is called the Backbench Project. This was like the heart of the Correios, of the post office, and many people were sitting there reading the catalog, studying the material, and fusing into this knowledge about how social activist group can change artistic practices. Another project is Carla Filipe. This is the pavilion was a military barracks which we used, and this is a project from a Portuguese artist in which she is studying how many of the immigrants who come with little boats from Northern Africa to southern Spain, how they leave their traces, how they communicate as an immigration source inside the city of Murcia, because in Murcia 30% of the population comes from immigration, not only from Africa, but also from Latin America, Ecuador, Argentina. And you would see the cement on the floor is a cement which is made with salt from the Mediterranean. And she put it all kind of little microphones in which you hear an audio material, in which you hear discussions with the immigrants itself, how they find work, how they will deal with being an immigrant in Murcia. This is Pedro Romero. It's a Spanish artist who was working in Santa Lucia, a fish village on the coast of Spain, very close to Cartagena. And he's working on an academic research of iconoclasm. How did in the Civil War during Franco, all the images of Catholicism were disappearing and how they were replaced. And I show you this picture because, for example, a team of 10 historians were working for 1 year with Pedro Romero to find out his research, to help him set out his research and to present the outcome. This shows a little bit about the process-like character of Manifesta, which is developing not finished works, but mostly like works who play in the region. This is Michael Takeo Magruder, another political project, who was researching through many different resources how the Atocha bombing, the bombing of the station in Madrid in 2004, how this affected Spanish society. And it was a conglomeration of websites, archive material through newspapers, etc.